Hey, everybody, welcome to Tip of the Spear. And as always, we are trying to look at things from not only a biblical perspective, but also a prophetic perspective. And today I got one of my good friends on our show with us, Pastor John Howler, a good friend of mine. I've known John for years and years and years, and we've become real good friends. And I love bringing John on the show because he's got tremendous insight. He does in-depth research, and he's got all kinds of things to talk about. And we're going to start first with the issues of Israel, the Trump peace plan, what's going on over there. We're going to talk to him about his trip to Israel and some of the insights he gained there from not only a geopolitical perspective, but also a spiritual perspective about what's going on in Israel. Because as you guys know, Israel's got its timepiece, and we need to keep our eyes on that nation and the Jewish people. And so please welcome to the show, John Howler, my good friend. John, great to have you, my friend.
Hi, Brandon.
Thanks for making some time for us. And I can't wait to get into this because I know you just came back from Israel, and I know you have some insights to share. So let's just start there. How did your trip go? What did you see on the ground? What did you learn? And fill us in on some good insights, man.
Okay, and then when we're done, in 2 or 3 hours, when I'm done talking about it, you can say thank you. You know how you go there more than I do. I'll be going back in another week for the Christian Media Summit.
Okay.
And meeting a lot of people. I'm telling you that every trip I've ever made to Israel has been life enhancing, changing, altering, on a number of different levels.
Sure.
This one may be more so. So I had a small group of about 20 people. We had some Orthodox Jews join us on different aspects of the trip.
Okay.
And so I sat in the back of the bus. We had a big bus, so I sat in the back because it was a little more comfortable for me to stretch out. I always say I'm a 2X guy in a 1X world here in America. I'm a 2X guy in a medium world in Israel. So PM says, well, what do you want when you get home? What do you want to eat? And I'm like, I want a chair that I can sit in comfortably. Yeah. Because there is none. I mean, even the desk chairs and I don't know, it just doesn't fit. But
Right.
And so I'll just give a caveat. I haven't done a prophecy update for 2 weeks. I sat in the back of the bus. I didn't have the microphone, so I couldn't talk. So I've got a lot of pent up things to say today. You can, and you're like, I know you know me. I don't have trouble carrying on a conversation, even when nobody wants to listen. So I told the group on my tour a couple things. First, by the way, when we were landing at Tel Aviv at Ben Gurion, our plane came in, said 15 minutes, 11:10, got down to 2 minutes. Plane pulls up, makes a big bank left, goes down, goes up, makes a more other bank left and everything. We come around, they reset it at 15 minutes. One of the flight attendants came to somebody near us and said, "You're a Christian group. Could you please pray?" I was watching them. They didn't, this was not normal.
Yeah.
We made 3 attempts to land. Every time he pulled up about 1 or 2 minutes before landing, circled around. We covered the whole country from the Galilee to Gaza, from the Jordan River Valley to the Mediterranean. And finally, on the 4th, we landed. I asked the flight attendants after we got through passport control. We went through their line because it was a little shorter. Our guide got us in that line. I said, what was going on up there? And they said, well, there was it was a hostile aircraft, or IDF was testing something, and there was apparently like a drone loose at Ben Gurion. And so we were doing literally like corkscrew maneuvers to avoid it. I asked her, I said, well, we're up there flying around for 50 minutes. Can I get some extra miles on my frequent flyer account? And she said that we were very close to being diverted to Athens.
Oh, no.
So we landed, and then we drove into Jerusalem, and it was Sukkot. It was, 5, 6 o'clock on the evening of Sukkot. And it's a Shabbat, special Shabbat. And there's no traffic on the road. It was unbelievable. I know. It was like, I thought, well, maybe this is what it'll be like after the rapture or something. There's, but then I thought, well, wait, I'm here. There's a whole bunch of theological points to make there, but we had a great time, great people on the tour with us. went to the Gaza Envelope, and we went to, Kibbutz Be'eri. The 68 people were killed.
Yeah.
Population on October 7th, 2023 was 920. Today it's 15. We spent 2 hours with one of the residents touring there. Some of the homes have been set up as memorials to the people killed. I remember a young couple was killed. They had pictures of what they found when they found their bodies. There's bullet holes and pock marks and grenade stuff. It's just, it's hard to describe. But we went from there. We went to the Nova site. We went to Spedero to meet with the widow of the first police officer killed. We were at his grave. She pulled the story, listed the body, and 2 minutes later, Hamas shot it dead. The next day, we went to Hebron. We went down to the Gaza house where part of the massacre in 1929 occurred. And the massacre in 1929 was prompted by the Mufti of Jerusalem, the Hajaman al-Husseini, probably Yasser Arafat's uncle, by the way, who worked with Hitler in World War III. He was actually banned from the Middle East and went to Iraq and helped lead the Ba'ath Party revolution there that ultimately brought Saddam Hussein to power. So they're all kind of connected. But the massacre in 1929 was prompted because the Mufti said the Jews were going to destroy Al-Aqsa. Exactly what Hamas was saying 2 years ago. So there was this connection. And there we went to Gush Etzion, where they told the story of the 48 War. Sunday, I was in Narwadi Hill, Christ Church. We walked around the Jewish core of the old city. We went to the Herva Synagogue, saw the video about the 1948 war that they had there, people killed, actually buried in the Jewish core of the old city by a special dispensation from a rabbi who was actually also killed. Just before he was killed, he said, yeah, you can bury us in the old city. There's a memorial there. And then we went down to this big square. There's a Rothschild house there that was built for poor people back in the 1800s to help take care of Jerusalem's poor. The whole Jewish quarter was leveled. The Herva Synagogue just recently opened within the last year after being, rebuilt over 70 years. Another synagogue just opened 2 weeks ago that was rebuilt from having been destroyed. But in this square, children were playing soccer, old people were walking around, and the IDF soldiers were there. And Roddy says, look at that. And he pointed over to the wall. There's a Hebrew verse from Zechariah chapter 8 on the wall. And 2 of the IDF soldiers, they had kippahs on, clearly Orthodox. They were literally weeping. And the verse from Zechariah 8 talks about your old men and old women will be in the streets of the city, and young boys and girls will be playing in the streets. And so we're sitting there like, I know that that's not fulfilled completely yet. It's a future yet.
Yeah.
But again, these prophecies unfold over time. So it's not like they're not here one day and then they're here the next. It takes a while for them to be fulfilled. But you see it right there. And then the excavations in the southern steppes, they're finding the walls of Solomon's palace between the city of David and the southern steps of the Temple Mount. Yeah. I was there a few years ago and saw a lot of that. And I'm just telling you what's happened in the last 3 years is really kind of mind-blowing. And it's kind of interesting that this is restoring the Jewish people to the land. It's part of a process.
Sure.
They lost everything in 70 AD. They lost the sacrificial system in the temple. They lost the temple. They lost the connection to the land and the diaspora. And now all of that's kind of being built back. And I think this is a progressive of prophecy that we see coming. And it's not done yet. It's going to continue into the future. And I think we as Christians, we probably need to start talking more about how we use this to point people to Jesus.
Yeah.
It's part of a process.
Yeah. And it's ever unfolding, and more more things get unearthed as archaeology keeps unfolding things. And that's the other thing too, John, just as a side note, man, you've got all these uh, anti-Israel, anti-Zionists saying, that Israel occupies the land and the Arabs have the right to it. And it's like every time the spade turns in archaeology, it reveals more evidence that the Jews have been there since, the days of Joshua, bringing them in the conquest. And it frustrates me to see that as people deny the reality of the Jews and even Christians, John, and you can probably talk into this. There's a whole segment of Christianity that outright denies that Israel's return to the land has anything prophetically significant. If they look at this as just simply political, and then they take the side of the Tucker and Candaces of the world and say, well, the Jewish hegemony that's controlling the United States, that's controlling the lobby arm of the United States to do things to fight Israel's wars. And it's like, where are they getting this? And it's getting worse, John.
Well, I think so. Let me say one thing about what I told my tour when we were traveling down to Gaza and up to Hebron, to the tomb of Machpelah. And there were 40,000 Orthodox Jews in Hebron on the day we were there. Yeah. Wow. And the Jews had complete control of the whole Machpelah facility. Usually it's a mosque on one side and a synagogue on the other, but 10 days a year, they have control of everything. So we happened to be there on the one day where you could walk you didn't have to climb up and down stairs from one to the other. And they're worshiping, they're praying. It was a giant party. Our tour organizer, Donna, she had the idea to go to a pizza place in Hebron there by the tomb of the patriarchs and bought coupons for pizza and like a slice of pizza and a soft drink. And we handed them out to IDF soldiers because everywhere we went, I've been there a lot. I know you've been there a lot. I've never seen IDF presence like this everywhere we went.
Wow.
In Jerusalem, up along the Golan border, everywhere we went, there were a contingent of IDF soldiers. A lot of them were being educated about the history. Some were getting ready. They were in training and that sort of thing. So I told my group, I said, what you've seen over the last couple days and what you're going to see for the next 12 days of this tour is the convergence of the biblical, historical, geopolitical, technological, and prophetic all converging at once here in Israel.
Yeah.
And I think I probably understated that by a factor of many, many times.
Right.
But it's so apparent. So as you know, I'm having trouble processing everything that I picked up on the tour.
Sure.
The archaeological evidence, the city of David, we walked, one of the first groups to walk. It's not completely open yet, but all of the pilgrimage road that's open, the excavations at the Pool of Siloam.
Yeah.
We went to St. Anne's Church there at the Pool of Bethsaida. By the way, Jesus only ever performed 2 miracles in Jerusalem. The Pool of Siloam and the Pool of Bethesda.
Yeah.
He made the lame man walk at the Pool of Bethesda. The blind man was healed at the Pool of Siloam. And that's interesting because when I was at the Media Summit 3 years ago, a business guy got up and said, these Abraham Accords going to bring a lot of money and things into Israel. We're normalizing things with our Arab neighbors. And then he talked about ChatGPT, which had just been released a few days before. He said, this AI is going to be amazing. And then he said this, I'm in Jerusalem on Mount Scopus. Okay. And he said, AI technology, we will make the lame walk. We will make the blind see. Now, I got chills when he said that because that was directly related to the messianic miracles that Jesus did in Jerusalem within sight I could go to the top of the hotel and I could see where those had both happened.
Man, that's eerie to hear that, man.
And I don't think the video is still up on the Israeli GPO YouTube channel, Jonathan Medved, if you want to dig it out.
Okay.
I have a clip of it someplace. I've used it. I'm just saying is something like that only really, really, really makes sense and hits you like a hammer when you're in Jerusalem and you hear it.
Right. The center of the world right there. Yeah, and hearing that. Wow.
So we were supposed to go a week ago, Monday. We were supposed to go over to the Israel Museum there by the Knesset. And we had to reschedule because some guy named Trump came to town. Trump's come to Jerusalem twice, and I happen to have been there both times. So I don't know if he's stalking me or what.
Yeah, but he needs to put you on the cabinet rather than Ball of White to get her out of there.
I think that there are some mistakes. And so I've watched this unfold over the week. So, and I posted on my Facebook page, I said, here's a picture of the Knesset that I just took. Tomorrow, it was a week ago Sunday that I did it. Tomorrow, this will be the epicenter of the world.
Yeah.
And it was.
It was, yeah.
Every eye was on Jerusalem. I'm not happy with what the Trump administration is doing. I'm not happy with over the last 24 hours. Israel sort of had a reading of a bill about exercising sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. And you know what? All these grifters like Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson and Propagandist Owens and all this stuff, they all talk about, Israel controls us. Israel controls Jeffrey Sachs, all these left-wing lunatics that Tucker Carlson has on a show with regularity. He says, I don't talk about Israel. And then you look at like 5 weeks, he's mentioned Israel 800 times.
Yeah, I know. He seems bent on anti-Semitism for some reason.
Everything is negative. Right. And so Israel controls everything that we do in America. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, all these people, they're grifting because now there's no cost to being anti-Jew. You can actually make money off of it.
Good point. And
so,
and John, you said interrupted real quick. When you look at these people's social media accounts and the people listening to them, dude, the comment sections on these people are off the chain anti-Semitic and anti-Israel.
They celebrate the fact that they are.
Yes.
I mean, there's a guy, I don't even know if I want him into Stu Peters.
Oh, that guy's crazy, man.
But he claims to be a Christian. It's unbelievable. And I'm going to be right up front.
Good.
I had a lot of respect for Charlie Kirk. I think there's a lot of crazy ideas about what happened to him. I'm a lawyer. I've been involved in investigations. You don't reveal everything while the investigation is going on. If you do that as a prosecutor, investigator, whatever, you're an idiot because you're going to tip off the people you might be going after.
Right.
You can't release everything right away. So don't make it into some big conspiracy that they're hiding everything from the public. Listen, every investigation works this way. I've been involved with federal grand juries. I've even been subpoenaed to testify from them. There are secrecy rules and things that apply. You can't disclose the testimony from a grand jury. Even if you're representing a defendant in a case that indictment came out of the grand jury, you can't get the testimony. You can get some summaries of it. I'm just telling you, people run with things that they don't know about because if I just say, well, this sounds like a normal investigation to me, nobody's going to watch. But if I could build it into some great big conspiracy and secrecy and all this stuff, then I get clicks like crazy. And
that's right.
And so you kind of have to evaluate what's going on in that way. But we'll say, look, Charlie was a great guy. I never knew him. I know people who knew him that speak highly of him and his faith and that type of thing. But I'm really concerned with the direction that TPUSA has gone. Tucker Carlson headlined the TPUSA event at Indiana University on, I don't know, September or October 23rd,
Yeah.
just in the last day or two. And as we record this, and he got a big standing ovation.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, to add to that, I just saw Glenn Beck, and Glenn Beck was covering for Charlie or something at one of these other schools. I can't remember where. And then these so-called conservative kids are asking him questions, and it's all anti-Israel. And Glenn had to control himself because he got very upset about the kind of questions they were having. And again, it came with the form of just asking questions about Israel. But it's always that insinuation in the questions. And well, you're absolutely right. There's a trend among younger conservatives that are going anti-Israel, John.
Well, it's there. It's in the church. Some of these anti-Israel pastors, and I said this the day after October 7th was a Sunday. I did an update, and I'll have to go back and look at it, but I don't want to do it because I don't like to listen to myself. But I know I said within a day or two of October 7th, 2023, that the issue of Israel would be the most divisive issue in the church until Jesus returned.
That's right. Amen. I believe that totally. I've had that same conversation with Tom and Billy and numerous guys in the prophet circles. Obviously, it is the dividing issue, man, of our day.
It's terrible what's going on.
So John, tell me this. Your take on the Israeli mood. You talked to several Israelis there. What's their mood about the hostage deal? Because obviously they have to allow like 1,900 terrorists back into the civilian population. Hamas gets to live. They're supposed to throw down their arms, and to this day, they haven't thrown down their arms. They're only killing their own people right now. I saw this clip yesterday of Hamas taking this guy that collaborated with Israel, and they had a lead pipe and were breaking both of his legs. And these are the kinds of people that the UN wants to support. All these college campuses want to keep saying free Palestine. They're monsters, and yet talk to the audience about your take on the Witkoff proposal deal, that peace plan that Jared Kushner put together. I think it's a train wreck.
So let's dispel the notion that it's a peace deal.
Yeah, good point.
I talked to a lot of different people from the center left to hardcore Orthodox Zionist pro-Israel guys. Okay, Jewish guys. I did not talk to a single person that thought it was a peace deal.
There you go.
I think everybody was very happy that the hostages were home.
Sure.
And that the bodies were coming back, but getting the live people back was a big deal. And it was, I sat for hours watching these reunion videos that were all over social media in Israel. And it's sort of hard to describe. I was down in Gaza at the Gaza border, and you could hear massive explosions. This is before the hostage deal was made. You hear massive explosions over there. And interesting, like in a city like Sderot, nobody even flinches when these explosions go off.
Yeah, they're so used to it. Yeah.
So nobody, and these were people across the political spectrum. The thinking is Bibi, if the election takes place, will get reelected. Yeah. They'll be going to elections in 2026 for sure, because that's the regular schedule. But the other thing that I found is this division in Israel about why Hamas did it. Well, we provoked them. And it's sort of like, no, you came back to your land.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of this is made up propaganda. So let me give you I can give you 2 or 3 examples of how they think about it. So one is that we've provoked them by taking over their land. I went to a fraud. I met with the mayor of a fraud. I met with the member of Knesset of fraud for a couple hours. They're building 7,000 new homes down there. They bought the land.
Yeah.
It's not stolen. They bought the land. They've lived and died for the land. In Hebron, they were booted out of Hebron in 1929. By the way, it was Jewish women who said, we belong here. This is our heritage. We're reestablishing the community. It happened in Hebron. It happened in Gush Etzion. And I'm telling you, there was a young Orthodox Jewish gal on our bus one day. And I'm just like, she was like a force of nature. I mean, she was like a 14-year-old Carolyn Glick.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
In training. I mean, it was fun to watch her. But we went to historical Jewish sites. We went to Joshua's altar, which is in Samaria.
Yeah. Wow.
Near Nablus.
Yeah.
We went with a couple Orthodox Jewish group, Aaron Lipkin's group and Israel 365, and we got a bus to take us in. It had to be a bulletproof window bus to go to a Jewish holy site in Samaria. And when we got out of we had an IDF escort in and out.
Yeah.
There were drones flying overhead while we were there, walking to Joshua's altar, the actual Joshua's altar that he erected on Mount Ebal. You can read about it in the book of Joshua.
Right.
We went to Mount Gerizim. Mount Ebal was the Mount of curses.
Yep.
Gerizim was the Mount of blessings. It's interesting. The altar was erected on the Mount of curses, but we went up to Mount Gerizim. There's an overlook. We could see Shechem down in Nablus, Joseph's tomb, right next to it. I've been there 8 years ago. But to go to a Jewish historical site, I told a guy in the hotel, he's an Israeli tour operator. I said, I went to Shechem once. He goes, are you out of your mind? No Israeli would go there because it's not safe.
Right.
And to me, I think we've talked about this on the usual Christian tour. Don't go to these places. We went to Shiloh a couple times where the tabernacle was.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a scandal that Jewish people can't go to where their heritage is. And then our president just kind of waves it, dismisses it with a wave of his hand. Jared Kushner doesn't care because it's not a potential real estate deal.
Right.
And we went to the Herodian, Herod's palace outside of Bethlehem, climbed up to the top of it.
Wow.
I'm in pretty good shape compared to what I was when I left. It's like 40 stories up.
Yikes.
And it's pretty steep stairs. And we had people that had canes on our trip, and bless their hearts, they were troopers. They made it up these. We did a lot, it's funny too, Google Maps, whenever I put directions in Jerusalem, it gives me the directions, how long it will take, and then it says mostly flat.
Mostly flat.
And I'm like, who is the moron at Google Maps that thinks that Jerusalem is mostly flat anywhere?
Right, exactly.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they mean it's smooth. You don't have to climb a cliff or rappel down one. I don't know. It's crazy. But so I was thinking, like, Jared, of course, he's in town. We were at the Western Wall, and he was there less than an hour after we went through Western Wall Plaza in Jerusalem. He and Ivanka came, and I thought, I'm looking at this Herodian, this unbelievable palace that Herod built. It's like, I don't know if I'd bring Jared down there because he might want to redevelop it, call it the Herodian or something.
Exactly.
But so the historical sites are not accessible to Christians in a lot of cases, or particularly to Jews. There's laws that say you can't go there.
Yeah.
So that's a scandal. But then there's this restoring connection to the land. Went to Ari Abramowitz's farm. There's a deep valley there by the farm. And he said, you think we bought this off? Well, you can't use that land. It's too steep to farm. But he said, the prophecy is, this is a Jewish guy, IDF. And he says, the prophecy is that there'll be a giant earthquake in Jerusalem. Mount of Olives will split and water will flow from underneath the Temple Mount all the way down to the Jordan River Valley to the Dead Sea and sweeten the waters of the Dead Sea. That valley right there is the main tributary through which that water will flow. That's why we bought it, because prophecy will be fulfilled there.
Wow. That's pretty amazing that you get that. Wow.
To me, it's sort of like the ultimate, I'm a big fan of PowerPoint. So it's like, to me, that's the ultimate PowerPoint. That prophecy will be fulfilled right there, and they point to it.
That's amazing. Wow.
And then, again, the convergence of the prophetic. So we went to a Orthodox rabbi's home for Shabbat in Efrat. And his wife, she teaches some online Bible studies for people. They're sort of affiliated with Israel 365, some of those people. But she said, it's year 5786. So that means we have 214 years to year 6000, which is very significant to them. And it's also significant to Christians. People are looking at that. Now, we have a different calculation. But she said that within it, there's something going to happen, according to our sages and rabbis, within the next 4 years, which is kind of interesting because there's all this push for 2030, peace, sustainable development goals. Sure. The AI guys are talking about it. Everybody's talking about 2030. And now here are these Orthodox Jewish people talking about it too. And I did ask the question, well, what if your sages have miscalculated and it's not 5786, it's actually 5996? Does that mean that everything in the next 4 years is going to be more intense and converging than you thought?
Right.
And I didn't really get an answer to it, but I think we need to be asking these questions and not asking loaded questions like Tucker Carlson. So I'm just asking questions, but they're all if I was in court, the famous example of a question you can't ask in court, I was a trial lawyer, is, do you still beat your wife?
Yeah.
If you do that, if you do it twice, the judge will hold you in contempt. And that's all that Candace and Tucker do, is ask these loaded questions. Well, I'm just asking questions. No, you are doing this to make a point. The people you have on your program, what you do, everything is being done to make a point.
That's right.
And so, again, there's this crazy convergence of everything that we see happening, and it's happening there in the land right now. Historic, as I said, political, geopolitical, and prophetic are all converging right now in the land.
So let me ask you this then, as far as where does it go from here? Because it doesn't look like Hamas is laying down their arms. Trump wants some technocratic, one of the things is a technocratic governance of Gaza, including himself, and he's going to put on the globalist Tony Blair on the board. And they're going to, what are they going to do? Turn this into a Dubai? I mean, where does this go from here? Because obviously it's a violation of the Abrahamic covenant and the land covenant, because now Israel doesn't have control of the Gaza. I mean, so where does it go from here, John?
I saw a lot of signs around Israel, make Gaza Jewish again.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I mean, listen, do you think that wouldn't be a decent solution?
That's a fantastic solution. In fact, Caroline Glick talked about it, referencing a book called The One State Solution. I think David,
she wrote that, right?
Or she wrote it, or somebody, and it was called The One State Solution.
The Israeli Solution, I think, was the title.
I don't think, I want to get your opinion. I don't think Trump thinks in those terms. I don't think Witkoff or Jared Kushner think it. They're thinking this is just a financial deal. You're going to have all these other Arab countries get on board on this, and we're going to make this into Dubai or whatever. I don't know what their mindset is. But how does this square with biblical prophecy?
Well, So let's say they build it. One thing to say is if they build it into this Dubai, it's going to be destroyed anyway.
Right. Good point.
So when Jesus comes back, and by the way, do people not really understand what happens when Jesus comes back?
I don't think they do, John.
I don't think a lot of Christians understand this.
No. They have that Roman Catholic mentality. He just comes back and it's all good. But they don't realize the bloodbath that's going to ensue.
Or they have a dominionist mindset that we'll do such a good job of building the kingdom, which we failed at for 2,000 years now, but we're going to get it right. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of narcissistic in my view to think that you're going to do what nobody in the church has ever been able to do.
Total pride. Absolutely.
And pride's a pretty big sin in the Bible. So I just don't see it happening. They're treating it like a real estate deal.
Right.
It's not a real estate deal. It's an ideological deal. I was just talking to somebody today about this. Well, what's the solution? Well, Jesus coming back is one of them. Until then, we're going to have a lot of imperfect solutions. But my concern is all the America First crowd that's now anti-Israel because Israel controls us. They're like, well, Israel tells us what to do all the time. So let's get rid of Bibi. Let's tell Israel what to do because that's okay somehow. It's intellectually incoherent. It's schizophrenic. I don't know what it is. It's psychologically unbalanced. So I don't think that anything they do, and listen, the other term too that needs to be removed from everybody's usage is we're negotiating with Hamas. They're not negotiating. And I saw the interview with Witkoff and Kushner, and I'm glad I wasn't anywhere. I had something to throw at the television. The 60 Minutes interview that aired with Leslie Stahl at 60 Minutes on October 19th.
Yeah.
They're talking about, well, Israel kind of got out of control because they bombed Qatar to try to take out the peacemakers. That's what Witkoff called these Hamas terrorists, the peacemakers. How do we accomplish anything when somebody who is so intellectually vapid, stupid, I don't care what you want to call it, that they think that those were the peacemakers or that you can negotiate with Hamas? This is terrible. And now, over the last few days, ever since that interview, what happens? Here comes Kushner and Witkoff. Then there's J.D. Vance. Now Marco Rubio. And somebody, I think it was on 60 Minutes or CNN, said, oh, I know what they're doing. They're babysitting. Because they're there to make sure that Bibi doesn't get out of control.
Wow.
And so look, there's a lot of people in Israel that think that we got to take care of ourselves and forget about the U.S. And that in itself has kind of a prophetic aspect to it.
Yeah, it does.
Because it says all nations will turn against Israel, Jerusalem, in the latter days.
Sure.
And so we're seeing that everywhere. But the other thing, too, is I'm tired of hearing people, what do we get out of this relationship? Israel's just dragging us into another foreign war. First of all, we've not put any troops on the ground. And secondly, people do not understand the fundamental nature of Islam.
That's it.
So here's I spoke on Turkey at the Rockwall conference with Tom Hope for Our Times a month ago because Turkey's a big deal. And so we go up to the Syrian border. You can see what's going on up there with a shift in the no man's land and the increased buffer zone and Israel taking over Mount Hermon. And this jihadist guy running to the UN, al-Shara or al-Shalani, whatever you want to call his name. He's from Saudi Arabia, by the way. But he lived in the Golan Heights for a while. His family did. That's why he had the name al-Jalani. But he's running around But now what I'm seeing is what do you see happening in Gaza for peacekeeping force? I saw trucks going in flying Turkish flags today.
Yeah.
Erdogan, earlier this year, January 1st, his son had a rally on a bridge in Istanbul, pro-Palestinian rally. But the poster said, yesterday, Hagia Sophia, we took over the biggest church in Christianity. Today, Damascus, that was Erdogan's operation. Even Trump says that. Erdogan, it was pretty cool what you did in Syria. I know you want to deny it, but we all know what happened. You wink, wink, wink.
Yeah.
And then he also says to Erdogan, you know something about fixing elections too, don't you? I mean, I kind of enjoy him trolling these leaders, but then it's saying tomorrow Al-Aqsa.
Right.
And so talking to people in the old city, these Turkish groups come through all the time. And they want to see certain things. Temple Mount model from Conrad Schick that's at Christchurch.
Yep.
By the way, if you want to help contribute to that, you can get money to Christchurch, but designated for they're trying to redo the cover for the Temple Mount model. This is one of the most amazing things in Jerusalem.
It is amazing. I've seen it.
And
showed us.
Yeah, Roddy. So contact me if you want to contribute towards that. They need to redo the cover and they need to raise a few more funds. But the Turkish groups come through, and people tell me half of them come back, or at the end of the tour, they say, by the way, we're coming back to take it over.
Yikes. There you go.
And Erdogan says this all the time. I mean, I was just preparing, another talk on him, and it was very unfair. Tom only gave me 45 minutes to cover the topic, but that's another topic. But because there's so much that this guy has said just over the last year or two. I mean, he's calling Israel a terrorist state 3-4 weeks after October 7th.
Yeah. Right.
Wait a minute. They just got attacked in this horrific terrorist attack, and now you're dumping on them, Erdogan. And so now they're there. I see Turkish flags on trucks driving into Gaza today.
Well,
and I'm thinking, like, what is going on?
Let me take you back a little bit further when Trump made this Middle East tour that he went to with Saudi Arabia, Qatar. And I see that one picture, John, and help me understand this. He's got Jelani there in the room. He's got MBS. He's got Qatar. And then on the phone, they're talking to Erdogan. And
right.
They're all teamed up. And I'm thinking, what is Trump thinking about this? What is his mindset of going into this? Because I wouldn't trust Qatar as far as I can throw them. I wouldn't trust Jelani. I wouldn't trust Erdogan's. But yet we're going to just look at this from a financial standpoint that they're going to do this for finances. I mean, does the Trump administration not understand Islam?
They don't. I don't think there's very few people in our government that does. And Brandon, from what's going on out there, what's going on here. I talked to people in Dallas when I was there about the inroads that Islam is making everywhere.
Yes.
And now I wish I had the cartoon handy. There's an editorial cartoon from a guy named Bruno or somebody. And it's a big red plane with Mamdani on the side of it flying into a tall building that says NYC.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Because we're like a week away, less than 2 weeks away from this Muslim Brotherhood guy becoming the mayor of New York City.
It's insane.
And I don't see, I met somebody from Brooklyn in Israel. I don't know which tour she was with. She was with somebody and we kept ending up at the same site to tour it. And I talked to her for a while and she said, nothing seems is gonna work. She goes, the good alternative is to vote for Como, which,
isn't that insane, right?
I know. how far down the barrel have we gone
Wow.
when he's the good choice to protect us? I don't think we really understand what Islam is. And look at what happened. Look at the optics. So Trump comes to Israel. Everybody loves Trump in Israel.
Yeah, they do.
Because he got the hostages.
Right.
Some like Bibi and a lot don't. But that's a very political thing there.
Yeah.
But then Trump goes to Sharm el-Sheikh to meet with the Arabs. And he makes a lot of commitments to the Arabs, which, by the way, if they make commitments to you, President Trump, they wouldn't keep them.
Right.
There's a thing called a hudna. Do you understand what a hudna?
That's exactly what I was going to say, hudna.
And so Bibi's going to Sharm el-Sheikh too. Erdogan's on the way and calls Trump and says, if Bibi shows up, I'm turning my plane around. Call goes to Bibi, don't come.
Wow.
So how do you have a peace without one of the peace partners?
Right, without Israel.
It's not a peace. So I would say, so most people in Israel, back to your earlier question, don't think that it's a peace deal. They got the hostages out and now they have, the fight is still going on. But then the world has turned against them. I just don't think there's you can say anything other than that.
Well, somebody made the statement, and I can't remember who, but it said that Israel may be winning the war with these terrorists, but they're losing the propaganda war. And even Charlie Kirk wrote that letter, to Netanyahu saying, you guys got to up your game as far as your social media, press secretary or whatever, because you're not doing a good job fighting the propaganda war. And I would agree with that. I don't know about what you think. But.
Yeah, but even when Bibi says something, it's immediately twisted beyond all recognition.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
They have state legislators come to Israel. Oh, they're just there to be propagandized. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Megyn Kelly, listen to this, Megyn Kelly. Put your ego away for a little bit. You can go there and not be propagandized, but you can go there and educate yourself if you're intellectually curious. But don't put on this facade that you care so much and you're so intellectual, because if you don't want to go there, you're not.
Right.
You've disqualified yourself. I don't really pay attention to her anymore because I don't understand. Like I said, TPUSA is having Tucker Carlson there. Look at who Tucker Carlson has on. This is all part of a piece. So when Bibi the Israeli government brings Israeli or American state legislators there to tell them about what's going on in Israel, it's immediately, they're being propagandized to be controlled by Israel. By the way, do you think if Israel controlled the media that there would be so much anti-Israel stuff in the media?
I know. That's what Olivier Melnick says. He goes, if they're in control of the media, why are they so hateful to them? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, if that's the case, then that's really where they're failing, because they control the media. My X feed is a Jew-hating sewer every day. And you mentioned it. The comments, somebody makes a bad comment. The comments are even worse.
Oh, they're off the chain, anti-Semitic, totally. And it's like they've read the Protocols of Zion and everyone's following them, John. I've never seen so much global anti-Semitism, not just from the left, but on the right, conservatives, America First types, Christian nationalists. It truly, I think prophetically, you got that Zechariah passage, where all the world will come against them. I totally see that building, man.
Well, there's a lot of criticism in Israel, and I think Charlie might have had some criticism about, why didn't Israel stop October 7th from happening? Okay. So first of all, I think I've been down to the border. You've been to the border.
Yes.
And they talk about bases down there. The bases are not that big. They're only like 20, 30, 40 people. They may not have weapons. So Israel didn't conceive that Hamas could do this. And therefore there was this normalcy bias kind of built in to ignore the warnings. But I asked the question, okay, so let's say they know October 7th is coming. What should they have done on October the 6th? Well, what they should have done on October 6th is what they've done since October 7th. But can you imagine the world opinion against them if they didn't have a bunch of dead Jews and other people from October 7th, if they had acted before that happened?
Yeah, if they would have been proactive, it would have been totally twisted that they assaulted the Palestinians. Totally. I totally track with what you're saying.
So look, Hamas is still there. Israel cannot claim victory.
That's right.
I'm sorry. And I don't know how you get rid of them, because I'm down by Gaza. I'm in Judea, Samaria, the West Bank. And in those areas today, Brandon, 80% of the people support what Hamas did.
Absolutely. And
if they held an election in the West Bank, Hamas would win.
Yeah, totally. You're absolutely right, John. And look, you listen to guys like Mossab Yosef, the former son of Hamas, that guy, that his dad was one of the founders, worked for intelligence for Israel. And he's trying to go all over the media and around the world telling people, you don't understand these Palestinians, these so-called Palestinians. He goes, if Hamas is wiped off, another family will just pop up and they'll be anti-Israel and they'll be terroristic, whether it's Islamic Jihad or it's Fatah or whoever. He goes, that's how it is. He goes, I grew up there. And I don't think people understand the Palestinians, because look, John, and you, I'm sure you've talked to a lot of people in Israel. Our contacts with the IDF said there is no such thing as a civilian over there. They all had RPGs in their house. They had weapons, and they're all willing to pick up arms and shoot at Israeli soldiers.
And these hostages were kept in the homes of civilians, or even in some cases, doctors.
Exactly.
How do we fight this mindset? And here's my concern. So there's a lot of argument about the final beast empires and where it comes from and how it's put together. So one of the possibilities is it's Islamic. Okay.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I lean that way. But I'm open to all the other things. I'm not going to be surprised if it doesn't work out that way. And I'm certainly not going to be surprised if it does work out that way. But when you understand the Islamic mindset, and listen to guys at the guys at JNS.
Yes.
And Danny Seaman, he's got a podcast, Straight Up, at JNS. He came over and spent like 2 hours with our group, just talking in a hotel in Jerusalem about what's going on and how it affects him and his family. Earl Cox, who's a Israeli special ambassador, was also there for a couple hours with us. We need to educate ourselves. We need to understand the nature of the enemy. And my concern is that, these Arab countries and Trump, I made these commitments to these Arab countries and stuff. You understand, they don't care about what you've done. If they have to go along for a while, they'll go along for a while and then they will turn. Oh. And if you've built them up into this big thing to make them strong, eventually they will turn. Saudi Arabia will turn. Egypt will turn. Turkey, we know it's gone.
Yes.
Iran is gone. And you've got Syria and Lebanon and all this stuff. Iran's trying to get back in Syria and rebuild in Lebanon. I'm just telling you, there's so many things going on so many levels that indicate that the answer to the question, hey, what did you think the end times are going to look like?
Right.
Or what do you think is going to happen before we're out of here? And my answer to that these days is, well, everything that's happened so far and probably a lot more along the lines of what's happened. And so there's just too many things converging.
Right.
I do those roundtables on technology and stuff. Yeah. And believe me, we do 2.5, 3 hours, and we don't even scratch the surface of what's happening there.
So I'm glad you said that, because I want to pivot to that, because another convergent factor, and I've got probably about 10 minutes, John.
Okay.
The other convergent factor is this digital identification that Starmer is issuing to the UK. and then I think Sweden issued it, and some other countries. But you probably talked with Patrick Wood and with Technocracy News, and Patrick's been on our show and been here at the church as you have. And this digital identification, again, is another one of those signposts for the end times. And now it looks like they're implementing it. And then I saw Starmer slip out. He said it first was for illegal workers. And then in another clip, he said, yeah, it's going to be tied to your money.
Right. And if you don't have the digital ID, you won't be able to work.
That's right. And I'm like, well, there you go. There you go. Okay, speak to that. Where is this going? I mean, it looks like the EU is trying to implement this. You think it can eventually come here?
Certainly the foundations of it have already been built. I know Palantir's been given access to a lot of information. By the way, everybody already has, whether you know it or not, everybody has a digital ID. So when Gates is pushing for a digital ID project, he's not thinking about you. He's thinking about the billion or so people in the world that live in undeveloped areas in Africa. But even there, Brandon, we help support some ministries in Africa. And in fact, there's a theological school in Malawi that's named after Pastor Steve Mitchell, because he spent like 72 hours there, and they still talk about it because the impact that he had before the Lord took him home. But even in those cities, I mean, I was talking to somebody like in chat. They live in mud and grass huts. They don't have indoor plumbing, but everybody has a cell phone.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Because you can get cell phone towers. You don't have to do all the wiring for a landline.
Right.
I mean, how many of us are giving up? I mean, we're on the verge of giving up our landline, because we don't use the phone anymore. It's just sort of a place for the telemarketers to call.
Right.
But it's so ubiquitous now. It's everywhere. It's permeated everything. And so the concern is this digital ID is tied to bank accounts and banking. And we see what's happening in the UK, where Islam is really taking over. I mean, the mayors of major UK, England cities and up in Scotland are Muslim.
That's right.
I think one of the top guys in the Scottish government was Muslim. The mayor of London is a Muslim. The mayor, I think, Manchester and Birmingham. And a guy got arrested. A Jewish lawyer in, I think, London was going to a protest, and he had a Star of David on. He was arrested for provocation.
Wow. Yeah, no, you got that. They've been Islamicized, man. They'd let the floodgates in, and yeah.
But the point is, Israel's on the front lines of that.
Yes.
And it's dismissed. Oh, we can't, they're controlling us. We're smarter than that. Yet we let it happen. And a mayor of our biggest city will be a Muslim in 2 weeks.
Right. And, remember our dear friend Phil Haney, which we still don't know anything how he was suicided, but he warned when he was alive, John, and you heard him say the same thing. This Islamic thing is a big deal. That's what you should be paying attention to. The CARE that's lobbying the United States, remember, with under Obama and all of that. And so, yeah, the distraction is we're gonna blame Israel, but at the same time, the wolf is coming into the hen house, and it's Islam. I mean, you guys were in Rockland, Texas, or Rockwall, Texas. And in Texas, thank God they shut down that 400-acre compound that was going to be an Islamic compound. But
I don't believe it's been shut down. I met with somebody who lives over near Dallas-Fort Worth Airport who said they've almost bought all the land around the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport.
Really?
It's strategic.
There you go. Yeah, it's strategic. And that's, no one's paying attention to this. And yet they're taking over all of Europe demographically and just these mobs of gangs. John, I saw pictures of Paris. Dude, it looked like little Mogadishu. It looked like Iran. with all these Muslim hooded women and young men running around. It didn't look like Paris. And if that's not going to happen here, I don't know. I'm starting to see it here.
Look, I was in a fraud. The difference between a fraud and the kibbutzim along the border are this. The kibbutzim along the border were populated by left-leaning, peace-loving hippies. I mean, that's pejorative, but
You're right.
they were the ones who most wanted to make peace with the Palestinians.
You're right. Absolutely.
That is why they were attacked by the Palestinians in Hamas.
Yep.
So, because what they're doing is sending a huge message. So that's why Christians are attacked in Syria by the Syrian government. The Druze are being killed and persecuted. There's Islam attacking people in Nigeria. There's tremendous persecution in Iran of Christians.
Yeah.
Even in Iraq. Well, I can't really talk about that, but or why I know that. But I'm just saying that Christians are being attacked. And Israel's on the front lines. And if we think that this stays there, it's not. It's already here in our communities.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. You're absolutely right.
And it's what Trevor Loudon refers to as the red-green axis or alliance.
Yep, totally.
Islam, environmentalism, communism, and Marxism all working together. Eventually, they'll have a war if they, get power. But the difference between a fraught, where these hardcore religious Zionists who love Israel and will defend Israel to the death, and Gaza, is there was a better fence in Gaza. In a fraught, there's just a fence that even I could probably get over if I tried harder.
I know.
Okay, an old man like me.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't mess around with concealed carry in a fraught.
Yeah.
It's all open carry. There's guns all over the place.
Yeah.
Because when you go to Hebron, when you go to the Burva synagogue, when you go to the Gaza, the children were killed. They didn't care that they were children.
Right.
They did it to instill terror.
That's right.
And the people in the front know we're on the front lines. We have to protect our families. And so this is hard for a Christian to navigate between protecting your family. You understand what I'm saying? We're supposed to be peacemakers, but we also have responsibilities to our family. So I sort of come down on the side. Well, here's the point I've made a number of times. There's a great promise about this reconciliation between Jew and Gentile Messiah that's coming in the future. Dead Jews will never accept the gospel.
That's right.
And so how do we get to that point? And I'm not sure I have the answer, but I'm just saying is we need to be talking about this, I think. And how is this restoration of them in the land? And I'll bring you back to the land in unbelief, like Ezekiel 36 says, and I will then put in you a new heart.
Yes.
Okay, so how do we get from that restoration to the land to the new heart part? Now, that's supernatural, but God has us here to help out in that process.
I totally agree. I'm on board with that. And that's the thing, John, that I'm noticing is the people like you and me and the people that are watching this broadcast, we love Israel. We're trying to do those things, but the majority of the church is totally checked out on this. And in fact, not just checked out, but hostile to Israel. And they're definitely not provoking the Jews to jealousy because of their indifference and their hostility. I mean, John, here in Bakersfield, we had, this is about 2 weeks ago, all the Jewish headstones at one of our cemeteries were all knocked over in the community. Of course, I reached out to both rabbis here and said, "Hey, we got your back." We even provide security for them. But John, there's no one else doing things like that. No one's reaching out to the Jewish people, and I think that's maybe another sign of the end as far as the Laodicean element of the church. I don't know. What do you think?
So when Paul talks in Romans 9, 10, and 11 about what's going to happen, I think there's a tendency for Christians to be, well, we've arrived,
The arrogancy of Gentiles.
Well, Paul says, don't you dare be arrogant towards the natural branches.
That's right.
And I think that needs to be sort of a guiding principle in what we're going to do. Look, I'm not perfect. When you talk to Orthodox Jews and stuff, you get to places where it's kind of uncomfortable sometimes.
Sure.
But you ought to at least sit down and talk to them. And, I miss Phil Haney. I think about him a lot.
Yeah, so do I.
I met him with Bill Caney sitting on the street outside of Starbucks in downtown Washington, D.C. And he was, what Phil talked about. And Phil's talking, and I'm looking around like, is there microphones pointed at us in these buildings around here? And then he would come through Columbus every so often. He'd call me up and say, hey, I want to talk to you. And I'd go down to his RV, the one that he was found murdered in.
Yeah.
And sit there and talk to him for 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
And he educated me a lot on this, but I mean, we need voices like him.
We do.
And what happens is voices like him get silenced or ignored by a lot of people in the church, and that's a crime in my view. I see so many churches, and Brandon, you've had the conversation that I've had. Hey, I just got back from 2 weeks in Israel. Christian people will say, well, why you want to go there?
I know. I've heard that so many times.
I know we're about out of time. Let me tell you. So I get on a plane once to come to California. Guy sits down next to me, and when I have the aisle seat and you're in the seats, between me and the window, you are a captive audience. So I asked him, I said, well, what do you do? So he was from Grand Rapids. He said, well, I'm professor emeritus at one of the, what we would call the Reformed cemeteries in
one of those.
Grand Rapids, professor of Old Testament. I said, I just got back from Israel. It was so amazing. How many times have you been to Israel? And he kind of sniffed at me.
Oh, no.
With that Reformed arrogance and go, I've been to Germany where it all really went down.
Oh, no.
And I thought,
that's it.
You ought to get the title removed, Professor Emeritus of Old Testament.
That's right. Amen.
I'm like, it's one of those, it even shut me up for a minute.
Wow.
Because I didn't know what to say, but I got over it. And then I talked to him for the next few hours on the flight. But he probably thought, who was that nut that I got sent? But that's so common in the church.
Absolutely. That's it, John. You nailed it. That's a great example of that attitude, man. That superiority attitude that I'm seeing from Christians. They think they're better than the original, branch that comes from the tree. And it's like, you have no idea. You were grafted in, you fool.
And that's why these tours that we do to Israel, for me, they're invigorating because it's people who love and understand the importance of Israel to our faith, because Jesus doesn't make any sense without the Old Testament.
That's right.
Our faith doesn't make any sense without the stories in the Hebrew Bible. Paul says they're there for examples for us.
Yes.
And so when you're around people who get that, it's really affirming in your faith. And I come back exhausted, but invigorated.
I totally agree with you. And, even just me talking to you, because a lot of times the Elijah complex hits us, John, and we think, are we the only ones? And I'm looking around and there's no other passages. But when I get to talk to you and Tom and, and the group and the circle that we're in, that invigorates me too, because knowing that, okay, I'm not alone. There is a remnant, and you've said it the best. I'm starting to know everybody's name in the remnant. It's getting so small, but at least I do know there is a remnant, a Philadelphia element that continues to hold fast to this, and so that's why I'm always pumped up to be around you and other guys in the circle, Olivier and Jan and all these other folks, because yeah, there are 7,000 that have not bowed a knee to Baal. And it's good to know that you're out there. Anyway, I got to wrap things up, John. I've taken too much of your time, my friend. But
Thank you so much.
Give everyone where they can find you, because I want people to be able to follow you, man.
Sure. Our website is fbchapel.com, and you'll find links there to our YouTube channel at Fellowship Bible Chapel, Rumble, Real FBC. And I've been posting. I don't post a lot just because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. My default position is I don't want to be first to post something. I want to be right when I post something. So I don't run. People say, get on camera, I'm like, I want to think about it a little bit. Let it stew. It's not going to change in the next 24 hours. In fact, there may be 25 times as much stuff to talk about in 24 hours, the way things are going these days. So on social media, Real FBC, John Haller 54 on like Rumble or X and Getter. And I think I have a Telegram channel too, but I don't post that much there. I don't have a staff, so it's hard to keep up with that stuff. But appreciate everybody that does listen.
Well, if people hadn't found you by now, they should. And here's the thing, my kudos to you, John, because the depth that you have, the insight that you have, there's hardly anybody out in our circle that has that kind of depth and the research you do. And I think it has to do, your legal background contributes to that. You have like a photographic memory, and you're able to recall a lot of these facts and figures that help all of us. So that's where I appreciate you and your gifting. And that's why I want people to listen to you, because listening to your even your Sunday prophecy update, man, you will learn a ton, folks, from John, because he's done so much research on this stuff. And so, John, I that's what I think.
I appreciate that.
And I put you in. I had a book that came out, and I put you in my book as far as a credit to thank you for the work that you do and befriending me and everything, because I appreciate all the work you're doing, and you're making a difference, man. You're making a difference. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate our friendship as well.
You betcha. So, folks, we run out of time, but again, follow John and listen to him, and he's got exceptional information, insight that will really help you out and edify you. And remember what the Lord said: when you see these things begin to happen, like Israel, that God's timepiece or digital currency or the Laodicean church, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time.